Padres Hot Tub is and has been for almost 5 years now, brought to you by the wonderful Padres Hot Tub Patreon community. It started with just a couple dozen of people following John Gennaro and I through a Padres Cardinals COVID playoff series, and now it's grown to a community of well over 500 that come together not just to listen to our podcast ad-free or to listen to the bonus shows that we do for patrons only, but to be a part of our Discord community. And on Sunday, December 15th, guys, we got to see the community come together in the flesh, in person at Stone Brewing in Little Italy for a holiday party, for a Padres trivia night with our guy Monty, the commissioner of our baseball league. Proof positive of the growth of the PHT community.
It was such an awesome night. Thank you very much for Stone for hosting us. Not incredibly fun getting my butt kicked by Monty's brother using, Final Jeopardy strategies to bring it all home. But I felt like I repped myself pretty well, and you did great, Craig. Jack Clark, FTW. That was awesome. So getting to put faces to the names in the Discord is awesome. Every opportunity we get to do it. I hope we get to do more live events in 2025.
Absolutely. And if you want to be a part of what we're doing, check it out. It's at our entry level, it's $5 a month, guys. I mean, listen, what do you get for $5 a month anymore? There ain't no $5 foot long anymore. Like it's like $5 for a 6-inch maybe and a chip on Tuesday if you buy a drink. So we're bringing you that value of ad-free podcasts, of bonus shows, of being a part of, and in 2025, it's going to be exclusive, all of our call-in shows on our Discord community, our post-game shows, our group therapy shows. Those are going to be, our group therapy shows specifically, are going to be patron only. So a chance to have those candid conversations. Check it out for yourself. Find out if you'd want to be a part of it in 2025. Patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub. Welcome to the Padres Hot Tub, everybody, for the last time in 2024. We think, unless AJ has one of those special nights waiting for us, one of those special non-denominational holiday celebrations ready to unfurl in a manner befit of a wizard. I'm Craig Elston, Chris Reed there, Raphie Cantor there as well. We are happy to be here with you. We didn't do a show last week during the winter meetings. It probably wouldn't have been that happy. And in retrospect, guys, I'm now extra happy for that decision because as we plan to barrel through the non-news from last week, it feels a lot less stingy with a week of separation from the whole everyone's there, things are happening, none of it is us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I if you guys have noticed, the prices that these pitchers and these free agents are charging these days, it's unbelievable. And
Woof.
I think like there is definitely like a FOMO element to this of like, oh my God, like everyone's having so much fun signing people. The Dodgers keep signing people, and then the Yankees are signing people because they didn't get Juan Soto, and the Mets are signing Juan Soto, and the Cubs are trading for Kyle Tucker, and like all this stuff is happening. But at the end of the day, I'm really glad that AJ hasn't made a move yet, because I said this in our Discord, but 2024 did a lot for me personally in terms of how I feel about AJ's credibility as a general manager. I think he made some big trades that I think panned out quite well for the Padres. And then he also made some fringe moves that I think panned out quite well for the Padres. And I believe that if AJ hasn't made a trade yet at this point, it's because he hasn't gotten the price that he feels the move is worth. So just because we didn't trade Dylan Cease yet, or Robert Suarez, or Luis Arias, or any of the other guys that theoretically, carry some sort of monetary load behind them that potentially warrants moving them as we look to operate a little bit more responsibly, whatever the fuck that means. I'm glad that nothing has happened yet, because to me, I trust AJ that there isn't some trade that he's sitting on that he hasn't got. So that's kind of how I feel with some distance.
Well, it certainly cannot be said that when AJ makes a splash, it always goes bad. Like, I think back to those Christmas trades for you, Darvish and Blake Snell, quite fondly. Like, those were out of nowhere. They were very AJ Rockstar-esque, but when he's done other big splashy stuff, it doesn't always plan out. I mean, 2015 was him taking as big of swings as he possibly can, basically stealing every headline in baseball. He did the same thing with the Juan Soto trade, and the club fizzled out under the bright lights of expectation in 2023. So when our guy's flying under the radar, he's had some sneaky success. He's a nice little U-boat, that AJ Preller. So we know he's hard at work. He gave a little bit of a timeline that we would see some things happen in the next few weeks, and that kind of happened last year to an extent too, even though we had to really wait months and months and months before the shape of the 2024 team took its silhouette.
Well, a week ago, talking about this all, Annie made some really good points on the show that I'm going to do my best to paraphrase. In terms of, there are some misconceptions about what happened during Peter Seidler's tenure as owner, one of which was that he was Papa Moneybags that was just dropping down giant bags of cash or giant digital troughs of equity and saying, sign this player, sign Manny, sign this, sign that. That's not exactly true. There were a lot of cash calls to the minority owners of the club. It wasn't just Peter's spending money. It was, hey, the dude who owns the Diablos Rojos, spend some money. Other minority partners put in a cash call. We're going to take out a loan. We're going to take out another loan. We're going to try and take out a third loan. It's going to be rejected by baseball. So with Seidler's passing and the team moving into a trust, ownership moving into a trust, Eric Kutsenda doesn't have the controlling ownership percentage needed to be an approved MLB control person for a major league team. He was given a waiver to be an interim person because of the death of Peter Seidler. Eric Kutsenda, in all likelihood, will not be the control person for the Padres at some point this coming year, 2025. And if they gave him another dispensation for one more year, it won't be much beyond that. There will be a change eventually, and that change will help define what's going on with Padres ownership. But the combination of Seidler's passing, the ownership moving into a trust, the fact that there were multiple cash calls on the previous minority owners and multiple loans taken out in order to finance the early 2020s spending leads you to what we saw last year and what we've seen so far this winter. The Padres aren't going to spend the fines. They're not going to go over the apron. They're going to look at those pre-committed contracts as being actually probably a little more than we really are comfortable spending. But we already spent it. It's already out there. And that core is going to exist through the back half of this decade, right? I mean, Tatis and Machado and Bogarts and Cronenworth and Musgrove and Darvish, like these guys, Merrill, these guys are here. These guys are the core of our team. Every year, the Padres' task is going to be tooling around the edges to try and keep the team financially fit and straight on the field at the same time. And what I really look at last week, guys, as having happened is I think AJ, the guy who you said it perfect, Rafe, isn't jumping into a move. He watched the whole game change. He watched the rules of the game change when an outfielder who is an offense-only player, essentially, got a plus $50 million average annual value contract. That means when he's 51, that Teoscar and Santander can say, well, we're 30. You know, we were 25 last year. We're going to be 30 this year. It means Profar gets to say, well, then I'm, 20. I'm 21. And if the market bears it, maybe it doesn't, maybe it does. But all the prices, here's the thing. All the prices of the
I don't
players.
know.
But I saw a projected contract for Profar of 4 years, $100 million from a Yankees fan on Twitter. So you
If
shake
it's a
your
Yankees
head.
fan.
It's a
Yeah.
Yankees fan.
Did they also trade for Tatis, the same fan?
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
Well,
We got
let me
Clark
just say
Schmidt
this,
coming,
and then
boys.
tell me if I'm completely wrong, Raphie. This is the point I'm driving at. Maybe I'm being a little whatever on a specific player's price tag. But my point is this. Soto changes the game because overnight, when he signed the contract and raised the bar so much higher, the previous highest valued contract was Ohtani at $460 million. Now it's up to $765 million for a player who doesn't pitch. Doesn't pitch and hit. He just hits. He doesn't even really field or run. He just hits. The price of players went up overnight. Every single player that's not signed said, my price went up with Soto. But the valuation of players' ability and talent did not go up. It didn't change. So that creates a rift in the market between cost and value. What happens when that is the case and all these free agents all of a sudden believe they are at a higher price than potentially their value is that then the GMs look over here to players who are under contract at previous market rates and therefore can outperform their cost with their value, which brings it to, I think AJ realized, beyond the fact that he probably walked out of the C-suite at his office and they said, spend no money. He realized when he saw all this, the values in trades, that's where the inefficiency is. That's where I can strike. I can move these $12 million players off my team, and they're going to get $25 million value on the market because people recognize the disparity now between cost and valuation.
Yeah, now that you've talked about it a little bit more, I don't wholly disagree with what you're saying. In terms of that the valuation fundamentally of these players in terms of how productive they are and what that equates to it as a dollar value that teams are willing to pay. I don't think that has really changed all that much. But what I will say is Juan Soto as a free agent was a unicorn because of how young he was.
Yeah.
It's not just that he's as good as he is, which he is.
Yeah.
He's superlative, and like people calling into 97.3 to tell you that Juan Soto wasn't actually that good aside, he actually was that good, even if he is that good, even if he didn't have his best years on the Padres. But Juan Soto is just going into his age 26 season when most guys hit free agency, if they're lucky, going into their 28 to 29, but more likely 30 season. Especially if they played in college and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I think it's the unicorn of a guy that young, who is that productive, whose number one tool is his walk tool, which, oh, by the way, is the slowest tool to decay of any of the hitter's tools. So you can guarantee that Juan Soto is going to be walking as much as he walks throughout his entire career.
Yes,
and
will, yeah.
And also, he happened to get caught up in a crosstown number one media market pissing contest.
Yes.
Where the Yankees were in a position where they basically had to re-sign Juan Soto to maintain credibility with their fans. And they were going up against a guy who had $20 billion and who doesn't give a shit. He just doesn't, like, he's the stuff that Peter Seidler said about, well, what's this money? I can't take it with me, like, blah, blah, blah. Like, Steve Cohen saying that sort of same stuff, but is worth 8 times more than Peter Seidler was ever worth in his life. So
absolutely, yeah.
Like
he's actually going a step further, Raphie. Steve Cohen said that he views it as a civic duty, to spend on the Mets enough that they win a championship and become the team in New York. He said that he takes it very seriously.
Yeah,
so
which
that's
for them.
part of the unicorn factor too, man. There's not many $20 billion owners in baseball. There's not many more owners as competitive as Steve Cohen. the length, Juan Soto being so young definitely takes some of the risk out of the deal. But at the end of the day, he ain't risking anything, you know?
Yeah, exactly. No, and I just say that to say I think that we're speculating that Teoscar Hernandez is now saying he's worth $30 million instead of 25. But I also think he'd be a moron to think that, because like he's not 25 now, about to be 26 years old and one of the top 3 hitters in baseball and has an incredibly high floor. Like it was a unicorn situation on a unicorn situation. And so, but that being said, you then had the Yankees, who were widely reported to be willing to spend $750 million on Juan Soto, now having to look at their fans, and they can't pretend like they didn't offer that money to Juan Soto. So they now have to go and spend $214 million on Max Fried and, make all these other moves and trade for Devin Williams. And so I'm just saying that, like, that week, last week in Dallas, was a very emotional week in baseball. I think there was a lot of people that were acting emotionally. And I'm just saying that I'm glad that the Padres, listen, I know there are some big Juan Nunez heads on this podcast. And I know you guys are going to be super emotional about Rule 5 pick who's never pitched above high A before, Juan Nunez, the current Padre. But I'm glad the Padres didn't get caught up in the emotion.
Well, they can't, AJ, he can't right now.
He could have traded.
Shop on
He could have made a trade.
That's true. But he's going to shop on the margins. He's going to find value on the margins, just like he did last year, because that's what he's got to do. That's the mandate, and we all understand it to a point. We can be as mad as we want about it. The fact of the matter is this club has had 3 straight winning seasons, and if they win again next year, they're going to tie their franchise record for most consecutive winning seasons. And I have a lot of confidence in AJ doing that, despite kind of the tumultuous market. Things did even out a little bit last year once, there's a bunch of guys standing around with only a few chairs empty. They get kind of desperate to sit. And that's going to happen again. I do want to make a little correction. Teoscar Hernandez was a $30 million player last year. He made $24 million from the Dodgers, but that's not how much it cost them. With the
no, it cost him close to $40 million. It cost him over $40 million to sign him. Yeah.
Yeah. They thought he was a value at that overall number last year. So, like, I don't care about Teoscar Hernandez. He's not going to be a Padre, and hopefully he can't hurt us anymore. But the point is we ain't in this market of where's Pete Alonso going to go, or Corbin Burns. We don't have to worry about it. It ain't going to be us. What we got to worry about is our guy does smart things. And the fact is, Juan Nunez has the potential, the risk of selecting him in the Rule 5 is $50,000 if you send him back after seeing him in spring and what he's got and not liking him. And the potential reward could be quite good. The Orioles have a loaded farm system. These teams only have so many spots on their 40-man roster. So if you hoard prospects and you're like Mike Elias and you hoard them and you never trade them, eventually you're going to get sniped by a few guys who might end up being quite valuable. So, I'm glad they didn't take 2 guys, I guess, if you're going on that thought experiment.
Yeah, the Braves. Took 2 guys. Crazy.
Yeah.
It's a wild sign. Listen, I hate the Rule 5, so I hope the kid's good, but probably I'm just really rooting for whenever they decide to give him his phantom injury. And
I don't know what you're talking about, Craig.
Back
Steven
soreness. Oh my God, 4 months of back
down.
soreness. That back just never getting right. It's just horrible. Like, they gave him a cobblestone bed to sleep in at night. It's just a miserable situation.
I was imagining it was more Dick Tricker, the famed Australian guy, holding like a Nancy Kerrigan baton, like just telescopic. He's walking down the hallway.
Just like AJ opens the door that Kolik's sitting in, he's all alone in the locker room. Says, "Hey, Steven, I want you to meet Dick. I want you to meet Mr. Tricker." He walks in, closes the door behind him.
Mr.
Dude just like
Tricker's so
busts out like one of those little.
Watching him meet Mr. Tricker,
batons.
and then he just rolls out a big plastic sheet on the ground.
This is what happened. A reenactment.
Yeah. Juan
Right.
Nunez, you're going to be a made man. You're going to become part of the Padres rotation. He walks into the empty room.
Incredible. Here's another thing just to kind of look at. And I don't love to belabor this point, but my buddy Joe Sheehan, who I sometimes agree with and sometimes disagree with, and I guess that's a good sign. Before the winter meetings put this number out, he created two buckets: teams that have stable television situations and people that have unstable situations. I think you could stratify this much more severely as teams that own their own network, tier 1, teams that are on a network that is there and paying them, tier 2, and then everyone else, tier 3. But he's grouped it together. To me, you have to look at specifically the Yankees on their own network, the Red Sox on their own network, the Dodgers, the Blue Jays, the Orioles do, the Mets do, the Cubs do, the Nationals do. Those teams own their networks. They have great situations. The teams that are partnered with Comcast, the A's, the Giants, the Phillies, they're in stable situations. We know the A's have to spend because if they don't, they're going to get a grievance filed against them by MLBPA because they've taken too much money without spending enough. So I could take them out of the group. But so far, going into the winter meetings, it was the teams with money had spent $1.365 billion on 9 players, and the other teams, all of them, had 3 total signings for $156 million. And
this
then
is good for baseball. This is good.
It's just great. It's wonderful. And then I look at the deals that were inked from there. Willie Adames, 7 years, $182 million with the Giants. Giants have a good television situation. Rangers don't. They did re-sign Nathan Eovaldi. So there's a weird one. A's and Angels have decent television situations. Orioles, television set. Mets, Dodgers, Angels, Rangers, Cubs. The Rays are the only team that signed someone to a deal last week that don't have a good television situation, and that was Danny Jansen, 1 year, $8 million. So basically right now we have a broken system where top free agency is literally just for the teams with networks. And for everyone else, we're going to wait for the pinch that Chris talked about to hit in February and early March when players don't have jobs and camps have opened. And that's where we'll look for our catch. I think our starting catcher will be signed, I'd say somewhere between January 30th and February 28th, which there's no February 30th. So like January 30th and February 28th is, I think, where our starting catcher will be signed.
But pitchers,
Hey,
and
they don't
catchers
report till
report
friggin'
early.
What's that?
I was going to say they famously report early, like
Yeah,
February
but
14th.
like
not
the
for a
15th.
couple more weeks. Yeah, they got 2 weeks to get their stuff in
Like
order.
Brett Sullivan can, catch everyone until then. He'll just run from mound to mound. Just set up.
No lies
brutal.
detected, Craig. Like that makes sense, and that's what we have to be patient, and try not to shake our fists at the sky and curse the. I say the gods, but I really mean the side their family trust or the control person.
And enjoy the next year and hopefully 2 years of baseball, because I think we are headed for a strike or a lockout.
I
in
couldn't agree more.
2027.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a big one.
Yeah,
I
like
couldn't agree more.
2026, the CBA's done. Baseball has to make radical reforms if they want to keep a sport.
Well, I'd love to see a much more NBA style. I just think the NBA's gotten it right. I think
With
the
rev
NBA's gotten it
sharing?
right, and the players are happy, and the owners are making money, and the cap goes up and up, but the floor goes up right with it, and it's not a hard cap. It's aprons, and you can still spend if you want to, But the thing is, like, the Dodgers would be in a spot now where, like, if they wanted to make a trade, it would have to be an exact dollar for dollar trade. If they would lose draft picks all the time, they would they wouldn't be able to do all these other things. They'd lose all these mechanisms that other teams had to improve their team because they're spending to this level. And really, it's just keep writing the check to the net to MLB. And you get pushed back 10 spots in the draft or whatever, but it's not enough, obviously, to serve as a competitive disadvantage for the Dodgers and the Mets to stop doing what they're doing.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, away go the winter meetings. We got Juan Nunez, so hey. Realistically, this is what I think. And because I'll say it into the air and into the mic, I'll be wrong, and we'll be back in a week. But I think this is our last podcast of 2024. And I think the next time something happens is Sasaki Day. I think it's January 15th, and we either get him or we don't. And someone else gets him. But I think until then, this franchise is going to be focused on one thing. And that is, AJ Preller learning every single thing he can. I'm hoping, he's climbing trellises, somewhere in Japan. Like, maybe just peeking in, finding things, finding out info, getting the dirt, getting the good knowledge. Maybe he's becoming friends with Sasaki's friends.
You're hoping he's out there revenging of the nerdsing it? He's out there peeping through windows?
I mean, I don't want to say peeping, but how about a little more of a casual infiltration? Like he's becoming like Sasaki's best friend's best friend right now. He's hanging out at the same basketball court that Sasaki's best buddies are at. And he's developing rapport. He's putting in the work, the shoe leather work.
You guys know how I feel about it.
I'm creating fan fiction you didn't enjoy.
My fan fiction is he's a Padre. He always has been, always will be, time eternal until I get slapped in the face with the wet fish telling me otherwise. You can call me delusional, but me and Terrible Padres memes collaborated on a fun little video that you can check out on our YouTube page, kind of laying out the history of the two guys. And I think it's happening, guys. I still think we're in a golden era of Padres baseball, and Roki sees that, knows that. I don't think we need hijinks. I think we just need, time to pass and to unveil itself.
Okay. Well, I hope you're right, man. But I'll just say this. We're about to go talk about some 2024 nostalgia, and that's how the show will wrap. If you're not in that mode still, cool. But we'll be back until and unless in 2025. If something happens, we'll roll on out. We'll emergency pod it. If we make a trade, if we make a signing, anything of the sort, we'll be back. But short of that, we're going to chill for the holiday 2 weeks and come on back in the first week of January and be back with you, hopefully with something to talk about, but in all likelihood, probably with the exact same stuff to talk about that we have today on December 16th, which is, speculation, hope, trade ideas. Is it Cease? Is it Suarez? Is it Cronenworth? Is it, what are we going to do? We'll figure it all out down the road. Right now, how did you guys want to parcel it out? We each have our best and worst of 2024. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Best and worst moments of 2024. We could have done we each pick our top 3. We could have done like that. But I just I don't know. I like hearing about what you guys think is what you guys qualify as your favorite or your best moment, and then what you guys think is the most damaging, the worst, whatever.
Okay, what are the parameters? Is this restricted to 162 games?
What I will say is I don't think it's restricted to 162 games. But I will put the caveat that everyone's worst moment should obviously be the 24 consecutive scoreless innings to end the season.
Yes.
So
it would be unanimous if we did that.
If we did, so I think that we have to put that aside. Everything else is in play.
Okay.
Cool.
Very good. Very good. All right. Who wants to go first? Do we have to roll a dice or something?
Ooh, let's break out our D20s. I'll lead off because my best moment is pretty crystal clear for me. And it was, I want to say, June 26th. The Padres headed into a series at Petco Park against the Washington Nationals at 500. They were straight a mediocre team coming in at 500, and they won game one. There was some hijinks with Jurickson Profar. I want to say he walked it off, and then the teams came back for the next day, and Jurickson Profar got accosted at the home plate by
Keibert Ruiz.
Keibert Ruiz. I was going to say
Keibert, I forget, but yeah.
Keibert, you nailed it. Keibert Ruiz. And Manny Machado came sprinting from the batter's box and pushed him off of Jurickson. Just came in, stopped that nonsense. The bench is cleared. There was like 20 minutes of absolute nonsense where both teams got warned. Mike Schilt and Davey Johnson were yapping at each other. And then on the very next pitch, once play commenced, Mackenzie Gore hit Jurickson Profar on the foot. And then who got ejected? Do you guys remember who got ejected?
Nobody.
No, one person got ejected.
Oh yeah,
Mike Schilt.
Mike Schilt got ejected. Yeah, that's
Mike
right.
Schilt got
That's
ejected.
right.
Because he got out on the field, like, as soon as it happened, was just like, what the hell? You guys just warned him. He comes out and hits first pitch. Nothing happens. And then he had to go off the field. There was more unsettling, Petco's getting into a buzz. And then Manny Machado walked up to the plate and with the very first pitch smoked it into the stands. I still remember screaming at the top of my lungs when that happened. I was so jacked. That game went on to be kind of crazy. That was Adam Mazur's only win as a Padre because he gave up a bunch of runs, but then the team came back. Jurickson wound up hitting a grand slam to put the Padres ahead permanently. Again, there's a video on our Padres Hot Tub YouTube page of Jurickson Profar gets mugged and then embarrasses the Nationals. If you want to relive that. That wasn't necessarily like an inflection point. I would have loved to have seen the Padres, never were 500 again after that. They still were mired in the muck a little bit. But that was such a coalescing moment when Manny stepped up to protect Jurickson. Like, we knew we had a team. We knew we didn't have 25 guys, 25 Ubers. We knew that those guys were looking after each other's backs. And that was my favorite moment for the San Diego Padres. My favorite moment for us was 10 days earlier when, in a fit of watching the team lose 5 games in a row and be garbage, we decided we weren't going to talk about them. And we did Storm Chasers, which we will do again. AJ Preller, Mike Schilt, we will do it again if you guys put up any of that bullshit again in 2025.
If you get swept by the Mets. It was right
you
after
get
we got
swept by the Mets. We're talking about friggin' the Lake Elsinore Storm. And
who is our Joe Urso? Still need to know.
We still don't know.
That's a great one, my friend. And I'll never forget Don Orsillo's call of that Manny home run. Do you remember it? He said, first Mackenzie Gore hit Profar intentionally. Then Manny hit it out intentionally.
Yes.
It was so good.
Hey, and happy birthday, freaking Don Orsillo. Today is his birthday. We are so grateful to have you. You have been the best moment in many of Padres seasons. And I'm stoked that for the winning streak that Don Orsillo is still calling our games.
Oh, 100%. Like, I can't, there are some things I can't imagine the 2024 Padres without, but Don and Mud, and like Don had some of his best calls as a Padres announcer this season. Like I don't want to jump on some of my moments from later, but one of them that is not included in my list, Merrill Madness, like was just remember when just leaning into it. And also, I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was the Sunday morning game that the Padres had against the Diamondbacks where they did it on Roku, and Don had to be like the neutral announcer, and like he's so professional, and so Corbin Carroll hit a home run, and he really called it,
Yep.
and it was like viscerally upsetting to me. It
Yeah,
was
it hurt. It hurt.
It hurt. So, which is a reminder of just thank you, Don. We love you. We're happy you're part of the team, et cetera, et cetera,
Yeah.
et cetera.
I'd like both Joe Davis and Joe Buck to get out their notebooks and take some notes.
Hey, by the way, guys, little life hack, because I don't know about you, but I still find Joe Davis's voice to really be troubling, and he's now chasing me to major college football games and to an NFL game, every week, and Joe is on there, and then I just hear his particular cadence, and I'm like, oh boy, how many until Otani's up? And so like it was bothering me, but then I started to imagine him as Kermit the Frog as a reporter, wearing the little brown hat. You know what I'm talking about, with the mic and the little brown hat?
Yes.
Kermit the Frog here, reporting live from outside. And now it's perfect. Now I can totally handle him. So if you want to try that at home, feel free trying that.
Is it like 30 Rock where Tracy Jordan sees the world as Muppets? Do you also just kind of picture him as it as well?
Yeah, I just now think of him as specifically Kermit the Frog as reporter Muppet. And now I feel good. Now I'm okay. Yeah. He can't hurt me anymore. Raphie, would you like to give out your favorite?
Well,
I've got one. If you take mine, I'll be sad. But
okay, so
I'll
are we
come up
all
with that.
doing favorites?
I can also load up my worst if you just want to get done with me.
No. Let's all do favorites, and then we'll end on the poopy stuff.
Yeah, then we can
be
get mad.
fun.
That way you can just skip it if you don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
Good call.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I, as you are probably not surprised to know, was going to take a analytical approach to this and go based on what were the moments with the most or worst, if from the Padres' perspective, win probability added. To decide what was the winner in my mind. And unfortunately, Chris, the number one moment is part of your sweep of games, so I will go down the list. But the number one moment by win probability added during the regular season for the San Diego Padres was that Jurickson Profar walk-off against the Nationals on June 24th. He hit, it was a 7-pitch at bat, actually, with it was in the bottom
Hunter
of
Harvey,
the 10th.
right?
Yeah, off of Hunter Harvey. It was the bottom of the 10th. The Padres went into that inning trailing 3-6 in the bottom of the 10th, with Hunter Harvey facing 5, 6, 7 to start the inning. And it went, the inning went Donovan Solano double to left field. Cronenworth, of course, as the ghost runner, then went to third base. Merrill hit a single, which scored both Cronenworth and Solano. And then Ha-Seong Kim walked. Tyler Wade pinch hits for Kyle Higashioka, batting 8th at this point. So funny to think that we were having Tyler Wade pinch hit for Kyle Higashioka at some point. But it was because Tyler Wade was going to bunt over the runners. So Merrill goes to third. Ha-Seong Kim goes to second. David Peralta fouls out. They intentionally walk Luis Arraez, and then Jurickson Profar hits a single to end the game after a 7-pitch at bat. So that had a win probability added of 73%. That was the highest moment for the Padres. So I'm going to go to the second highest moment, and also I'm totally fine with it because it was maybe going to be my pick to begin with anyway, which was way back on Monday, April 8th, 2024, when the Padres mounted their eventual 9-run comeback
from
against
8-0 down
Cubs.
against the Cubbies. Yep.
Yes. Cubs. Yes. And the exact moment that I'm picking, if you will remember, was the Fernando Tatis Jr. 2-run home run, which capped it all and took the lead. And that also had a win probability added of 61.1%. in that moment. That came in the bottom of the 8th inning. But it was
Raphie.
Yeah.
Wandy Peralta won both of those games.
He sure did. He sure did. That is our favorite reliever. We've never said a wrong word about Wandy Peralta. There's another obvious moment that I'm gonna leave in case Craig doesn't pick it, and then I'll just shout it out. But the Tatis home run to cap the 9-run comeback, I think is going to be my favorite moment.
My favorite game of the year, there's no question about it, and I remember it very, very well, is July 30th.
Okay.
The Padres, coming off of the All-Star break, lost the first game to Cleveland, got shut out, and then they ripped off 7 wins in a row. They had the dynamite road trip that went through Washington, Cleveland to Washington, the Dylan Cease no-hitter, on to Baltimore, took 2 out of 3 from the Orioles, and then came home to face the Dodgers on a series that had a weird off day in it, and was going to have the trade deadline, the next day, right? Trade deadline is the next day, but a little weird 2-game series between the Padres and the Dodgers. And Matt Waldron started against Tyler Glasnow on July 30th, Tuesday, July 30th. I remember being at the Joey's home poker game, watching this game with all of the guys that were there, and there were a bunch of Dodger fans. It was actually entertaining. Matt Waldron fell behind 5-0 to the Dodgers. The game was not going well. 5 runs in the top of the first inning for Los Angeles. You're facing Glasnow. You think it's over. Padres got a Machado homer, big brother moment. And by the way, just for the fun of it, the way that the Dodgers got a 5-0 lead, keyed by Kevin Biggio's 3-run homer for the Dodgers.
Dodgers legend.
Right. Like, win a bar bet later in life if Kevin Biggio ever played for the Dodgers. Never mind that he hit a 3-run homer against the Padres. But Machado gets a home run to make it 5-1. The Padres scratch for 2 runs in the 3rd inning and make it 5-3. Waldron settles down. And then this becomes one of the ultimate team wins of the year, because every guy that you hate other than Wandy Peralta came in and succeeded for the Padres against the vaunted Dodgers. Yuki pitched a shutout inning. Kolek pitched a shutout inning. After Morahone got through the guys with a couple of walks, got out of a bases loaded jam, Logan Gillespie came up. The dearly departed now, non-tendered, right? Wasn't he?
No, he signed a minor league deal with the team.
Signed a minor league deal? Okay, so he's back. He's back. But he pitched a shutout inning. And then in the bottom of the 9th, down 5-3, facing Blake Trinan, Manny homered and Merrill homered back-to-back to tie the game 5-5. And in the bottom of the 10th inning, Donovan Solano was a pinch hitter, and he drove in the Manfred man. And that was after Suarez pitched around, the Manfred man in the top of the 10th, and the Padres won 6-5. Next day, traded for Scott and Adam and Perez. And we know what happened from there. Padres were the best team in the league, basically down the stretch. But I just felt like that was such an energizing game, because it was the Dodgers. It was 5-0 down off the spit. Just game starts, it's 5-0. Hey, welcome to Padres baseball, everybody. We're down 5-0 to the Dodgers in the first, and here's Tyler Glasnow. And to come back and win that game, and from Merrill madness to homer in the bottom of the 9th again, and tie it, and then Solano come through. What a game! What a moment!
That was great. I do. Go ahead.
Just bonus points for being the one against the Dodgers. That's a fun one. And Logan may not have signed a minor league deal. I might have just made that up. I'm not sure.
I do have, before we move on to our final moments, there is one great moment that is very quick that I can mention, and I have a 30-second audio clip of that great moment.
Let's do it.
Best case scenario, obviously, would be Miguel Rojas somehow hits into a triple play.
Oh,
but that's
you're
probably
the man,
asking
Jesse.
for a bit much. Swinging away, ground ball to Machado. He hits third, that's one. Goes to second in time, on to first, a triple play! A triple play! and the ball game is over.
I mean,
Courtesy 97.3 The Fan
yeah.
and the Odyssey.
Thanks,
Corporation.
97.3 Fan. Thanks, Odyssey. And by the way, Jesse Aguilar's best moment in my book as Padres
Yeah,
I agree.
play-by-play
Yeah.
announcer. It was
That's absolutely
immaculate
the best
phenomenal.
singular moment for sure. That's the best singular moment.
Yeah.
Also
Yes.
against the Dodgers.
Also
Okay,
against
let's
the
go to
Dodgers.
the other side. What do you got?
Well, I mean, I want to offer a quick little runners up because it happened. I want to say the next day, and that was Dylan Cease went up in not necessarily a must-win game, but the Padres were still in the running for the division at that point. And I want to say that was the game with the single highest clutch index of the entire season. And he went out and he shot the bed, and the Padres lost, and that became a running thing. But my least favorite moment, and it kind of got spread out throughout the past 3 weeks of the season, and I'm going to say it one last time for our listeners and for you guys. The Padres had a failure of, I don't know if it was culture or process. They left Jackson Merrill way down in the order the entire friggin' season, only to bring him up to hit fifth in the last few weeks of the season. And he had no business being there. He had no business being there at all. And this is a guy who won games with clutch moments. There was never a moment that was too big for him throughout the entire year. And the Padres deferred to veteran leadership or whatever. They kept Jurickson at the top three of the lineup long after he had kind of become a pumpkin again. And they never rewarded Jackson by giving him at-bats that he needed, that the team needed him to have. And by the time the playoffs came, they weren't willing to make the adjustment anymore. And the club's offense for the last few weeks suffered. So my worst, it's not necessarily a moment. I'm kind of cheating a little bit, but it was something that I feel like was identified by a lot of people, that the dude had every business being at the top of the lineup. They never made the adjustment. And I really, really, really feel like it cost them a lot at the end of the year.
Well, my friend, I'm glad we got to take one more beautiful walk around that hill and admire the view from all 360 degrees. It had been a while, I admit. I had kind of forgotten about that one little rock you have to move when you get to the north side. So that's great. I think Merrill will be hitting probably higher in the lineup next year because he'll take Jurickson's spot.
Yeah,
I think he'll take Jurickson's spot.
It's going to be fixed in 2025, and we'll get to see it. But God, that was just a piece of rib stuck in my teeth for the last few weeks of the season, and I really feel like it cost them.
Raphie?
Yeah, but just before we move on, as a bridge between me and Chris, you mentioned Storm Chasers as a best moment. I would be remiss to not remember the worst moment, which was when Chris and I went to go pitch and catch, respectively, the first pitch before the Lake Elsinore Storm game. And Chris laid one in, I want to say maybe in the batter's box, but maybe a little bit outside of the batter's box, and I completely whiffed on catching it, and it went right to the backstop.
It was definitely in the batter's box. Though. If there was a hitter there, they would have had to have moved. Like that one was not on you, Raphie. I mean, plus the friggin' heat on it, and I'm pretty sure it had movement. I feel like I had some two-seam action tailing away from you.
Your stuff plus was ridiculous that day. It was Austin Adams like stuff, really.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yes. So okay. There is the win probability worst moment, and then there is my personal worst moment. The win probability worst moment factually, and I'm glad that the facts also bear out the feeling, because this is when I felt the worst losing a game, was when on September 5th at home against the Detroit Tigers, Robert Suarez gave off a walk-off, or not a walk-off, it was a hit in the top of the ninth, but he gave up a grand slam with a full count on a 6-pitch plate appearance to Parker Meadows with 2 outs in the top of the 9th inning. That was a 73% win probability added moment, which matches the Jerks and Profar moment earlier in the year. But
it all evens out. That's what they say, Raphie. It all
evens out. But yeah, I remember this quite vividly because I was in New York and I was working on set, and it was this 5-week period where the games were starting at 9:40 p.m. local for me. And I am a very emotional watcher of baseball games. I like to think of things analytically, but when I'm watching, I'm anxious. And I was like, I can't start watching the game because if I start watching the game, I won't be able to go to sleep. And I just so happened to be working late that night, so I didn't get back to my hotel room until just about midnight. And so I was getting ready for bed, and I lay down, and I was lay down on my stomach, and I've got my MLB TV on my phone, and it's just this like cold and empty hotel room in New York that no one within a 10-mile radius gives a shit about this game. And I remember Parker Meadows stepping up, and it's just one of those things where, again, I think you it's the type of fan you are, and I just am the type of fan I am where I'm like, this is some shit that would happen right now. And then it did. And so that was my least favorite moment of the year. That was an incredibly winnable game that we snatched victory from the jaws of defeat, or snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, I guess would be in this situation. My personal worst moment, and Chris kind of alluded to it earlier, but because we were at the Dylan Cease game on September 25th, when the Padres were going into that game 2 games back from the division on a Wednesday, the middle game of a 3-game set. So if the Padres won those 2 games that were remaining, they theoretically were tied going into the final weekend of the year with the Dodgers.
With the tiebreakers.
Exactly. And Dylan Cease started, and I remember this very vividly because I actually wasn't in my seat. I was at the King's Hawaiian Rolls stand at Dodger Stadium, waiting to get a chicken slider sandwich combo. And so I had my pocket scorebook. Shout out to Dave, our patron Dave, who turned me on to the pocket scorebook. And I got in this conversation with, one of the Dodgers fans that was in line with me, that was asking me about, oh, you keep score, like, why do you do that? And I did the whole, like, it's like vinyl, you don't need to do vinyl, but vinyl's cool. And I look up, and Dylan Cease is facing Mickey Rojas in the bottom of the 4th inning. And specifically what had happened in that inning so far was that he got the first 2 batters out. He got Muncy and Will Smith out. Tommy Edman doubled to right field, and then Gavin Lux singled, scoring Tommy Edman, which brought the game from 1-2 Dodgers down to a 2-2 tie. And so Miguel Rojas was up with 2 outs, and Gavin Lux was on first base. And this was right after Letters to AJ had put out that wonderful article talking all about the win condition against the Dodgers, which is that you have to get 7, 8, 9 out.
Yep.
And so we had talked about that on the show. I had read the article recently. I'm waiting for my Hawaiian roll combo. It is not coming. And I look up, and what does Dylan Cease do? But he walks him, right? Miguel Rojas.
Yeah, walked that motherfucking guy.
I believe on 5 pitches. I'm going to confirm that. No, on 6 pitches.
Good.
On 6 pitches, but they were super not chill or competitive. It was ball, called strike, ball, strike, swinging, and then ball. It was like a pretty non-competitive at bat. And then of course Shohei Ohtani comes up, and he promptly doubles to put the Dodgers in front, from which they never left. But when he walked Miguel Rojas, I turned to the person who had asked me about the scorebook, and I just said, we just lost the game. And I know that that's like textbook doomy shit, like that I like to get mad at people in the watch party, but fuck you. I was there waiting for my Hawaiian rolls, and I was at Dodger Stadium. I was being a fucking fan at that moment, withstanding heckles. I almost got in a fight with someone that night because Tatis was up, and this guy was telling Tatis that he should kill himself, like 2 rows behind me. And then Tatis promptly hit like a 450-foot nuke. And I literally, like a ghost, jumped from my belly, turned around, and went, what was that? What was that? and everyone around me was scared. It was like mommy and daddy were fighting at the dinner table. It was like it wasn't like a cool or fun, chill time.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, Mickey, that was my least favorite moment.
Rafe, I was
Rojas.
sitting with Dave that game, and I don't think I told him this or any of you guys, but that was a miserable game for me, my least favorite at Dodger Stadium, and in no small part because the entire game, after that fourth inning, I was getting absolutely roasted by a deaf Dodger fan who was sitting across the aisle to me. Absolutely roasted. He was giving me signs with his fingers that were not sign language. I know a little bit of sign language. They were not ASL.
But you knew what he was saying.
I knew exactly what he was saying because he kept on directing both of them right to me.
Yeah.
And it all started when I want to say on that. No, it was before then. The Padres had scored, I think the first time. I'm not remembering exactly. And I had yelled, and he looked at me kind of disgusted, and I just gave him the sign for sorry. It's like, sorry, man. Sorry. And then from then on, oh my God, it was just nonstop deaf Dodgers fan destroying me the rest of the game.
Hey, Chris, you can't spell asshole without ASL. That's just a fact.
All right.
Unless you're on YouTube, it just feels like that went over like a terrible lead balloon. So
yeah. Chris was trying to do sign language. It wasn't that none of us were responding to.
None.
Okay.
I was spelling asshole for you. Finger spell.
Got it.
Great
on
an audio medium.
Yes.
Well, just because you brought that up, without question, the single worst personal moment for me was watching Game 5 at Bottle Rocket, where this Dodger fan was heckling me from the street. And literally got in my face 2 times, and
that's crazy, man.
Yeah, and just really made that watching experience extremely unpleasant. But that's not what I'm going to pick. I'm going to pick what I think is the moment that we can always have that debate. Did we lose it all when we decided to start Dylan Cease? Was it doomed because we weren't going to score in 24 innings? But I'm going to go back to a game we won. Game 2 of the National League wildcard round. Because going into that game, I felt like the Padres had the team to go to and win the World Series. Because the thing we didn't have in 2022 was 4 starters. And to win the long series, if you're not going to have the magic bullpen bullets of Dodgertown, you want 4 starters. The Astros won those World Series with 4 starters. That's how they did it. And we had 4 starters. We had Cease, and we had King, and we had Darvish, and we had No Joe. And Joe Musgrove had come back from his elbow situation, and boy, his pitches were crisp. He was throwing some of his best baseball, and now we know he was pitching with what he knew was a mostly torn UCL that was going to give at some point. Well, it gave in, the second or the third inning of Game 2 of the National League Division Series. And we won that game. Higashioka homered. Arise had a bunch of hits. We won that game, but we lost Musgrove. And not just for that playoff, but for all of next year as well. But without Joe, what did we wind up coming to? A 2-1 lead over the Dodgers. Joe's spot, ready to fire. Yeah. And we roll in Dylan Cease on 3 days rest. And the rest is history. Like, what if you had a nasty, full-strength No Joe, the guy who kills the Dodgers? In that spot, I'm loving our situation. In that spot, all of us there, city behind him, I'm loving our situation right there. And we wind up with 3 days rest Dylan, and then we wind up having to go back to L.A., and the Dodgers wind up winning the World Series, and, there it is. Man. But I think losing Joe was a real big blow to this team, and it might have been one that we didn't even realize how big it was.
Yeah, that's a great point, Greg. From a spiritual and just emotional standpoint, it was huge.
Yeah, this is the first time that I've heard it put in those terms where I'm sad. I'm just I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, because the great, when I think about the great what ifs of my lifetime, sports wise, it's like, what if Marlon McCree just went down You know what I mean? And
Yes.
didn't try and return. You know what I mean? Like that. Like, what if it wasn't raining in 2004 and Nate Kading kicked all these field goals? Like, like what if the Chargers had special teams in 2010 when they had the number one offense and the number one defense and they just they didn't make the playoffs because they're special teams? There's all of these I can add up. What if Matt Holiday not touching home plate mattered? Etc. And to me, like the what if Martin Perez started that game instead of Dylan Cease becomes an interesting like it's because to me it's a butterfly effect thing because at the end of the day the Padres didn't score, so it doesn't matter who they started that game. Martin Perez could have pitched 9 innings of one run ball and it wouldn't have mattered because the Padres didn't score. So, but the question is, does Martin Perez, does that have a butterfly effect of like, well, then that inspires the offense, or they handle things differently, or whatever. Dave Roberts manages the bullpen differently because Martin Perez is pitching well, and that changes, what happens. But what if Joe Musgrove's elbow didn't pop until that game? If it goes if he made it one more game and you get like 4 solid innings out of him or something like that.
Yeah.
That's another great what if.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if he just made it to a couple starts more? Just a couple starts more. Good one against Atlanta, one good one against LA. We get to the next series, right? Yeah, it bows out. Maybe we have the ability to patch over at that point, but we needed Joe against them. We needed our guy against them in that spot, and we wound up with Dylan. And 4 innings in, I'm solving waffle in section 307.
It was so bleak, you guys.
And already thinking about trade scenarios that now we are openly. It went from I thought I was being bleak to here we are, probably trading Dylan Cease.
Craig and I left in the 7th inning, I think, to walk to Bottle Rocket to set up for our post-game show.
Yeah.
And
I wasn't quite ready, but I didn't last much longer.
And I respect it. I don't know. I couldn't stomach it anymore. And I had this rationalization going in my head that if we miss the greatest comeback ever, like it means that like we had a role to play by leaving the stadium to unlock it or something like that.
Right. That's a great story, right? It's a great story.
It's a story that I have to tell myself. But we didn't have cigarettes, but I swear to God, Craig could have been chain smoking, being like, they gotta fucking trade Cease, man. Like he's never gonna be big game Cease. Like
yeah.
I don't trust him. I don't put me in that spot again. You give me that kid, I'm gonna be like, well, all right, after we're down 3-0, what are we gonna do? All right. Great reminiscing. It was a beautiful season. If you want to hear more of this on Annie and Elston, every day at 11, we're playing highlights the rest of the week. Tomorrow, in fact, we're going to play the Jurickson game.
Fun.
So, you can hear that, and the Dodgers game will probably be Wednesday, and so on and so forth. So you'll hear all of this good stuff coming up this week. But again, guys, I want to just close with a note of gratitude, both to you guys. 2 years now together. I love where we are as a community with Hot Tub. I love everything that you've put into the show. You came into a difficult situation a year ago, and now 2 years down the road, we're bigger and stronger than ever. And I appreciate it. I love this show. I love our banter. I love everything that each of you bring from your own spots. I love Par. What an incredible addition to the community. I love everybody in our Discord. Almost everybody. I love the Discord as a concept. And the interactions that we have there, and all the spontaneity and the incredible people I've met, the golfing buddies I've met there, our daily exchange of these silly games like Wordle and whatnot, our 6-tier fantasy league with keeper leagues and survivor leagues and big brother leagues. Like there's just so much going on in our community. I am privileged and blessed and humbled to be a part of it. And for everybody who's listened to one of our shows or all of our shows, or maybe just this show in 2024, I'm so very thankful. And I hope you're with us on the ride in 2025. A championship's never promised. Nothing's promised in life, but we're going to all be here together striving to hopefully one day have that beautiful parade that Peter Seidler dreamed of.
It felt so good to give my Discord nemesis, Alex Pena, a hug at Stone Brewing Company last night. We've got a lot of different personalities in our Discord, and we got different personalities here on the show. But rooting for this team requires humor, it requires perseverance, and it requires sometimes a little bit of negativity. And, there's all those flavors in our Discord. And thank you for that, Craig. It's an absolute joy getting to talk about this team I love. I keep going back and watching these Don Orsillo calls and the highlights from the season, and it gets me teary-eyed sometimes. I love the San Diego Padres, and to get to share that with people who have been through the same horrible ups and downs and come out the other side, it's great.
Yeah, I mean, look, this endeavor that we've all embarked on to be Padres fans is a ridiculous endeavor. And I think we have to remember that at moments where we can get frustrated. We can get frustrated with each other. We can, it is it builds character being a fan of, we don't have a monopoly on that. There are lots of, takes character to be a fucking Brewers fan. All right. Like it does,
Sure.
you know what I mean? Or a Rays fan. There's lots of teams like that. That being said, I do think that it is easier. I remember there was a Doug Stanhope bit like 20 years ago when he was talking about the Yankees, and I think he would probably say the same thing about the Dodgers now, where it's like being a fan of that team, it's like going to the casino and rooting for the house. It's like, and I take pride in the fact that we are showing up to the ballpark every day as fans, if that's it physically, in person, on our Discord, whatever. And there's a certain amount of hope that is accompanying that move in the face of tremendous odds against such. I just think that my hope for 2025 is to stay more in touch with the hope than with the no good pessimism that I am frankly want to do often. I won't be perfect, but I'm very happy to be doing it with you guys, trekking for hope, and I'm happy to do it with our community. So each and every one of you makes this place special. So thank you.
Well, AJ, the rest is on you, buddy. If you want to have us do another podcast in 2024, it's all on you, Cat. See what you got. Otherwise, we'll see you on the flip in 2025. For Chris and Raphie, I'm Craig. Go Padres.